You are watching Leicester Till I Die TV.
Watch us on YouTube.
Listen on your favourite podcast platform
Or ask your smart speaker
to play the podcast Leicester Till I Die.
Right, Chris.
All right, good evening. Yes, probably the most used picture of this man ever has been on the internet. It is a transfer special. I know the transfer window's over, but look, let's have a look back at it, because let's be honest with you. This time last season, we didn't get a chance to look back on anything in the transfer window, so it's actually going to be nice to be talking transfers. It is LTID TV from Leicester Till I Die. Thank you very much for joining us. Please feel free to get your comments in about the signings, the non-signings, those that went, those that didn't go, those that you hope that went, and those that you didn't want to go. We'll be covering them all tonight. So if you do put your comments in, and we're not talking about your particular player that you've asked a question about, do hang on, because we'll be covering as many as we can. But we'll try and put some of your questions into the mix as well. There was a podcast on Twitter earlier, the second tier. Now, all I will say is, what the hell were they talking about? If you're going to go and if you're going to talk transfers, get somebody on that knows what they're talking about. Like this gentleman here, Rob Tanner from The Athletic. Hello, sir. Good afternoon. Oh, good evening, I should say.
Good evening. How are you? Well, I'm melting here. Season started. We're into the international break. And we're getting weather like this. I'm melting.
We never have for us Brits, are we?
No, exactly. Exactly. We're always moaning about the weather.
It is. What would we talk about? We would absolutely not talk to each other if we didn't have the weather to talk about. Mm-hmm. But let's not knock it. There's nothing wrong with a nice Indian summer.
Yeah,
we did have a proper one anyway. But no, welcome on. Thank you so much for coming along and doing this. We were going to do it on Tuesday, but we were talking just before we came on. And again, as I always say, please do subscribe to The Athletic. Rob is the Leicester City correspondent there, knows what he's talking about. And we write some of the best stuff that is out there on the web. Do get over. And he had to do one 5 years, I suppose, for the report to come out. But it came out regarding the 27th of October 2018 when, unfortunately, the chairman and everybody else on the helicopter passed away. It didn't make nice reading, and that's not a criticism of your reading. That's just a criticism of, well, not a criticism, but that's just a fact on the topic, if you like. But, I mean, you've been writing for many, many years. That must have been one of the hardest things for you to write.
I've written about some pretty horrific things over the years. I wasn't always just a football writer, obviously did news and lots of other things as well. So, but that is particularly tough to write about, to read 209 pages. A lot of it was very technical jargon about, the engineering of a helicopter. And I know a lot more now. I mean, luckily, my colleague Adam Leventhal's next door neighbour used to fly helicopters. So I had a chat with him about certain aspects of that report so he could explain it to me in layman's terms. But the personal side of it was the hardest stuff. The stuff that was in the report about what actually happened that night, like minute by minute. And well, the pilot was a hero in my eyes from reading that. The fact that I mean, he was completely out of control. It was 14 seconds from the failure to hitting the ground, and in that time, he was able to make sure that it didn't contact any cars or buildings or people, and he even, because it's like a handbrake in a helicopter, but it controls the lift and the down, so it goes the ascent and the descent. Right. So he made it go into a descent and then pulled up right at 75 meters from the floor. How he knew he was 75 meters from the floor, 75 feet from the floor, when the helicopter's spinning and it's pitch black. Incredible. But they said in the report that 4 of the 5 people on there, although while all seriously injured, could have potentially survived because of his actions. But unfortunately, the bad luck was that they landed on a concrete step, which made the helicopter tip onto its left side, and that ruptured the fuel cells and caused the fire. And they said in the report that they probably asphyxiated on the fumes before it ignited. So, so that in a way that's incredibly tragic, but also a little crumb of comfort that they didn't suffer too much, But a testimony to Pilot Swaffer, because
it
could have been moment he was thinking about other people.
Yeah, and it could have been so much worse had he not been able to do that. Or had he not thought quickly enough to do that, it's scary.
Out of tragedy, you find these stories of heroism and selflessness, and I think that's one.
Yeah, definitely. Just wanted to touch on that. Like I said, it is a great piece. Please, as I said, I noticed I think there's another offer up there, £1 a month for 12 months to subscribe. Please go over, subscribe, and check Rob's page out. And he does write some terrific stuff. Scott is in. Hello, Scott. Hello, John. Leicester for life. John's asking about a certain podcast that I mentioned earlier. We will be coming on to that, believe it or not, John. Connor Cody's signing for Leicester. I don't think we're going to get through the whole show without mentioning it. But here we go. Let us just have a move around and get rid of some of this stuff here. And then, there we go. You can see us in our full beauty. Right, you wrote this a while ago. Leicester are shaping up to have the best squad in the Championship, and to be honest with you, I think you've probably hit the nail on the head there.
Well, yeah, I mean, there wasn't too many surprises in the transfer window for me, because the 7 lads that were out of contract, we knew they were all moving on. Yeah, there was no secret there. We knew straight away the relegation was confirmed. Well, we knew James Maddison was going anyway, whether they stayed up or not. But we knew Harvey Barnes was probably going to have to go as well. Timothy Castagna was also very bankable, a bankable asset that they could move on. So there was no surprises in those departures, really. So it was then a question of who was coming in. Who could they bring in? Because obviously got to replace a lot of players. I mean, Brendan said before that the squad needed a bit of a reshaping, a refresh, but it's a total rebuild.
Yes.
But but then there were a few surprises for me, because the fact that Leicester can still draw going into the Championship 2 England internationals in Harry Winks and Connor Cody.
Yes.
Straight off the bat as well. That was a statement of intent, bringing those 2 in straight away. That sort of set the tone for me. And then Mads Hermansen coming in, I thought he's a goalkeeper that's very highly rated. A lot of people have been talking about him.
Yeah.
So he wasn't somebody that I wasn't familiar with or heard their name before. So that I thought, wow, okay, here we go. Then going to Man City and get Callum Doyle, who obviously was with the Coventry in the playoff final. And I watched a lot of his stuff, because we use a platform called Y Scout. and we can watch pretty much any game we want from around the world and highlights of certain players. So I can go in.
Everybody's making a note of that now, including
yeah.
me.
and you have to pay for it. It's not free. I mean, the Athletic pay for it for me to go in and use it, and a lot of the clubs use it. So I can go in and I do a lot of pieces looking at examining players' attributes, and so you can watch their highlights, but you can also watch the areas that they need improvement. So I looked at Callum Doyle, and I started to think, well, they're building something here. They're building from the back. They're building a foundation. Goalkeeper, 2 centre halves that have come in. Then Harry Winks, a holding midfield player. And then it was a question of building from the top. And obviously losing Harvey and James were a massive source of goals and assists. So they had to replace them. So it's been interesting the areas they've gone into to build that up as well. So, it's... I've been actually very encouraged by the work they've been able to do. I know they would like to have done a lot of it a lot earlier, to give Enzo more time to work with them, because not only have you got pretty much a new squad, you got a new manager and a new philosophy, a new idea, as he calls it, his idea. So it's going to take a lot of time. In fact, I'm actually amazed that they started off with 6 straight wins in all competitions. Before
some fans still aren't happy because we lost to Hull.
I mean, and against Hull, they had over 65% possession, I think, 21 shots on goal, only 1 on target, though. So that's the area now that they need to refine. They need to get more clinical in that final third. But
I feel when I've been watching this, because let's be honest with you, we quite often had the possession under Brendan. We just didn't do anything with it. And I've got obviously links that I watched, some of the games on. One day it was down, and I was watching like an AI following of the match, and it was literally sort of Vestergaard to Winks to Vestergaard to Winks to Vestergaard to Winks. But at the end of it, there was a superb long pass, I think, from Vestergaard, and it was there was an end product to it all, where you never felt there was that with Brendan, did you? Well, I didn't anyway.
There is a plan. There is a plan. And I would love to sit down with Enzo and talk it through with him properly and show him footage of those first 5 games so he could talk me through the finer details of it. But from the press bench, I can see what they're trying to do. What they're trying to do is build from the back and draw teams out, because they know they're the big fish in the Championship. So teams are going to sit deep. Even the reporters from Hull were talking about, Hull love to dominate the possession, and they didn't. They came to the King Power Stadium and they sat deep and said, right, you come on to us. So they're going to have to get used to this. Every game, it's going to be the case, even away from home. Teams are going to sit and say, right, okay, let's see what you can do. So they've got to be patient, and they're going to probe, and they're going to try and go down the left, and they'll see if they can draw them out. If they can't, they'll go back and start again and draw them out on the right. And if they see an opening, because teams are going to condense the pitch, they've got that crossfield pass. Now, I've been looking at stats today for a piece on Yannick Vestergaard, but what stuck out to me was the amount of long passes, accurate passes, Callum Doyle has played so far, from left to right. So that is an area what they're trying to do. So when they shuffle the pack over, because they're trying to condense space, so you can't play through them, but obviously that leaves a lot of space out wide, and that's why bringing in wingers was so important in the transfer window, because he likes wingers that are going to stay wide and create that space. Callum Doyle will ping it over to the right flank. Now he's got options on the right as well now, with some of the signings they've brought in with Yunus and Abdul. So, hopefully with a bit of time and a bit of work, we will see this game plan evolve. But also, opposition will evolve their tactics as well. So it's a fluid thing.
We are, as you say, the big fish that everybody's going to want to come after. We no disrespect to Southampton or Leeds, and Leeds obviously are a massive club. But when you look at recent history, Premier League winners, FA Cup winners, charity, or Community Shield winners, or as I like to call it, the Super Cup of England. We're the team that they're going to want to prove themselves against, and it's down to us. And what I've been watching, and I'm an old git, I'm not going to lie, and I can remember pre-Fergie days when Liverpool were the dominant force, and watching them, they could go a goal down, or they could be struggling at 0-0. but you never felt that they panicked because they always knew that something would come most of the time, not all of the time, like with us with all. But yeah, we've been getting those late goals, and I look at Leicester and I see a lot of that Liverpool sort of side in Leicester because we don't panic. We concede a goal or we're not getting through.
Yeah.
We just take our time. It's not going to work all the time, but I do see that in Leicester.
Yeah, as I said, it's a work in progress. I mean, there are areas that cause me a little bit concern at times. I mean, they push so high. I mean, I don't know if anybody noticed that against Hull, certainly in the second half, there was 21 players basically in the final third of the pitch as Leicester pressed. They sat so deep that Yannick and all the back three, as it becomes when they're in possession, was so high up the pitch, and there's so much space to exploit behind. If anybody just puts the ball over the top and you've got a striker of pace, a Vardy of 2016 running into that, that would exploit that. But it's a risk they're willing to take because this is the belief system. And I have to say, I don't think I've ever come across a manager that is so invested in his philosophy on how to play the game. He will not change it at all. Yeah. Even after the defeat against Hull, you come out, he seemed really relaxed about the fact it was a defeat. I wouldn't say he was happy, but he was certainly, a lot more upbeat than a lot of people around the place. And I thought that, well, this is a guy that just thinks this is going to happen from time to time. But it's a work in progress, and we're going to keep going because I'm completely and utterly committed to this philosophy and way of playing. And I think eventually it could potentially be a really exciting style of play. Yeah. I know the fans get frustrated because they want to see the ball go forward, get into them, and they want to see high octane football. And under Brendan, at times we did get that, a lot of high octane football. But you've got to stick with this.
Football moves on, doesn't it? I mean,
it's a commitment.
I don't think we can play it now this season in this division, the Claudio sort of football that won us the Premier League, But that's what fans want. They want that counter-attacking, style.
What a contrast, though. What a contrast, because they were winning games with 30% possession. Leicester have not had less than 63% possession in any game so far this season.
Yeah.
It's a complete contrast, complete different path.
I did want to, because you mentioned there, the defeat. We'd gone, well, I mean, last year we were collecting records, but not the sort of records that we wanted towards the end under Brendan. But look, 4 games to go undefeated, then it became 5, then it became 6. It's, my God. And I must admit, personally, excuse me, whilst I never want to lose, I'm quite glad we have, and we've got it out of the way. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, because it just reinforces the fact that this is a new beginning, and there is a lot of work ahead of us, and it tempers the expectation to some extent, because I do think there is a feeling that Leicester should be going out and demolishing everybody in this league, and you've got to respect this division because it is unrelenting. I mean, you might not see the quality now. I think Leicester have got away with a couple of results so far, because they have conceded a lot of chances, and the quality in the Championship isn't there sometimes to punish you like the Premier League. I'm sure if they were in the Premier League and they're playing against better opposition and playing the style of football they're going through this transition, there wouldn't be anywhere near as many points on the board. But you've still got to give them credit for winning those games and finding a way. And what they've been is patient, as you said, and they've passed teams to death. To the extent where, because they're chasing all the time, and that's why so many winners have come late on, because the teams have just been fatigued and somebody switched off at the vital moment, and there's been an opportunity. And for a little bit of McAteer at Rotherham, classic example, crossfield ball, Callum Doyle inside, shouldn't have been showed inside, brilliant finish. I mean, in fact, I spoke to a journalist in Turkey about Yunus, and I was talking about the Rotherham game and where he might fit in, and he looked on YouTube and he said, "Who's this Casey McAteer?" He said, "This guy's incredible." Just from watching that game, the highlights of that game and the finish, So,
Yes.
sometimes, it's always great. And we're going to talk about a lot of transfers, aren't we? But, a lot
Yeah.
of times fans get all excited and they want to see these big glamorous names. And it's got to be somebody from overseas coming in. Sometimes your homegrown lads can
Well, this
come
is
up with
it.
some
You
good
don't
stuff.
need to spend that money, and we haven't got the money. We have to cut your cloth accordingly. But like you said, and I've said this, and I 100% agree with you. Is okay. Yes, we are conceding a lot of shots, and I'm sure we might get found out when we play Liverpool in the Carabao Cup.
Good
But
point.
we're not playing the Liverpools week in, week out. We're playing, the Sheffield Wednesdays and the Ipswiches. No disrespect to them, and the Cardiffs. And hopefully, by the time we do get to play the Liverpools and the Spurs and the Man Cities, we'll obviously have gelled more as a team and be better. Fingers crossed. You mentioned, sorry.
I was going to say it's going to take a bit of time. I
Yeah.
mean that, and as soon as that draw was made, and that's why I said to you, good point. I thought that we will find out more, and don't expect too much from the result, but we will find out more from that game than we will from any other game so far this
Yes.
season when they go to Anfield
Oh,
and play
100%.
Liverpool.
And it'll
We
be
will find out the
interesting.
values of Maresca ball.
Yes, yeah. And of course, we played Liverpool pre-season. Switched off for 20 minutes and
Played brilliantly for 30.
yes. But there we go. But looking at the list there, I mean, it's quite a busy window compared to last year, wasn't it? We've had quieter ones, but
Yeah.
the top two there, Barnes and Madison, well, we know about them. The thing that impressed me is we did the business early on, so that the money was there, and we knew they were going to go. So why drag it out? Maybe get a few million extra here, or a few million extra there, and you're just messing about. But I mean, nearly £80 million for two relegated players ain't a bad deal.
No, and they generated nearly 100 million. When you've got you're going from having concerns about FFP for European qualification, for then having to deal with FFP in the Championship is a big drop.
Yes.
So they had to do something, but they had to get deals done early, and they had to be realistic. I mean, if they'd stayed in the Premier League and Maddison had signed a new deal, obviously his value would have gone through the roof. I mean, the people are already talking about him being the bargain buy of the Premier League transfer window, and I would totally see where they're coming from with that because he is a top player.
Surprising that we moved to Tottenham, though.
No. I know there's a lot of people was expecting him to go to like one of the big hitters, but I wasn't. I thought Tottenham would be a good fit for him because he's going to play. He'll play every week, and I think it's really good for him there. And Ange Postecoglou is trying to build a team that's going to be exciting and attacking force, and that suits James to a T. Yeah. I think it's the best move he could have done. Yeah. And I think Tottenham will challenge this season, and I think it'll play a prominent role since Harry Kane's gone. So, no, I think that's a really good move for him.
What I like about Harvey Barnes and James Maddison is there was no spitting, you dummy outs or no moaning, I mean, no. they all right, they hadn't signed a contract, but, we were able to move them on while we still got money. Maybe it was our own fault with Tielemans, but, there was no sort of, moods or anything like that, and they both left, I think, with the best wishes of the fans. Yeah, which
it's an awkward thing about, and I think sometimes fans don't quite get this about. Well, we should have sold them when they had 1 year left. But if there's no takers, you can't sell them. And Yuri, I think his people had aspirations of a Big Six Champions League club. Were going to come in for him. I don't know if there must have been conversations with clubs and they must have thought that was going to be possible. But I always say there's a reason why players reach a level and then don't break through the ceiling is because there's something missing from their game. Yes. And there's like an element of doubt about them. And I think with Yuri, he's a wonderful footballer, fantastic vision, and he'll do very, very well at Aston Villa. And I think that's quite a nice environment for him. But he hasn't got that physicality that perhaps a Liverpool would want from a midfielder, or one of the the top sides in Europe. So I think that's why. But Leicester fans always go on about Harry Maguire, and they sing about him in a negative way and stuff like that. And this has always troubled me because Harry knew Man United were interested in him. They came in for him the summer before he left.
Yeah.
He signed the contract because he knew they were going to come in again. But he signed the contract, and that protected Leicester, and that's how they could get £80 million for him. No, nobody else has done that.
No.
Nobody else has done that.
But I didn't know that until you told me that, actually, on the previous
I've mentioned it on a previous show, but
and I just don't know why wouldn't Yuri do that? So at least, all right, even if it was only 10, 20 million, at least we could get something for him.
Because, footballers at the end of the day, and there's a lot of nice lads, really is. I mean, there's a lot of good guys in the pro game, but they are mercenaries at the end of the day. They play for money. And they're looking for the best deal and the best opportunities to progress their career. There is I'd say the classic example against this argument is Jamie Vardy. But I would say that don't get too attached to players, because players come and go. They'll look out for what's best for them. But Jamie Vardy's different, and he could have made a lot of money going to Arsenal. In 2016, He could have struck while the iron was hot when he was at the zenith of his powers at the time. But he felt like there was something there for him, and again, this summer there could have been opportunities for him, Saudi Arabia or something like that, to earn a lot of money.
Yeah,
but he wanted to stay and have his.
I think
he wants to get them back in the Premier League. He sees that if he could get them back in the Premier League in his last year of his contract, I think he'd feel like his journey was complete.
Exactly, that would be the perfect end. And these players don't have sort of any loyalty to Leicester, and all right, some players do, like Kieran.
Some players do,
local lad. But the majority of them, it's a job, at the end of the day. But looking at some of the others that left, I mean, it's interesting to see that a lot of those that have left that we knew were going, they've actually been able to. I mean, I think Mendy's the latest one today, or yesterday. He's ended up with a Champions League club. Sorry, so they've all sort of gone to decent. But I'm sorry, I don't know if they went or not. We talked about this before, but Ryan Bertrand going back to Chelsea, I don't think that has happened. But Johnny Evans to Manchester United. I mean, even with your crystal ball, you couldn't have seen that one coming, Rob.
No, not at all. I mean, in fact, I had confidence that he might sign a deal and stay at Leicester, but then Man United is such a big part of his. And we talk about players not having loyalty or affection for their clubs. He has for Man United.
Yes.
But at his stage of his career, perhaps one last swan song at the club he loves. Perhaps that was too much of a draw for him.
Well, exactly. And, players have teams that they have supported when they were younger. And again, no loyalty to Leicester because he's got no links to Leicester. And, if you could play your last season in the Premier League or the Championship, let's be honest with you, I think we'd all know where we would choose. Tete is an interesting one. I know we will come on to Eunice later, but I actually was doing a watch along and I got somebody come in the chat. It was actually from Turkey. He was Turkish and he supported Galatasaray. And he came and said, how's Eunice going? And I went, well, so he's only been on for 10 minutes. It's hard to say. I said, how's Tete going at your end? He went, bloody awful. He says, can we swap back? So I think if anybody could find the one Brazilian that wasn't very good, it's Leicester.
What a remarkable outcome that is, though, because we all watched his debut at Aston Villa.
Ah, yes.
And I thought, wow, they've got a player. And I watched, again, using the Y Scout, I watched a lot of his footage when he signed to sort of gauge what sort of player he was. And he was a right-sided player that loved to come in centrally and make central runs in behind the 9. And I thought when Kelechi Iheanacho dropped deep and he ran in behind and he scored at Villa just before half-time, I thought, that's it. That's the blueprint. This is a plan. This could save Leicester in the Premier League. And he never made that run again. And I don't know why. I have no idea why. I don't know if it was coached out of him or he was instructed not to do it. Oh, there's been so many. I mean, I did this piece about Eunice and some people pulled me up on it and said, you can't keep talking about Riyad Mahrez. But since Riyad Mahrez, I'm not comparing him to Riyad Mahrez.
No.
But since Riyad Mahrez left, they've tried so many players in that position, the left-footed, right-sided winger, and none of them have succeeded. And I wish Eunice and Abdul all the best, because that has become a bit of a poison chalice of a position for the team, and it's such an important position for them, especially the way that Enzo wants to play. So we can only watch and wait. And that's the thing here. We're reviewing a transfer window and assessing it, and you can only truly know much later down the line how successful it's actually been. I mean, after that Villa win, I thought Christensen had a good game. Suter, although he's unfortunate with an OG, looked good. Christensen's out the club, back at out of Bologna. Suter can't get in the side, and Tete's gone. So those three guys that I thought these are the saviours, they're nowhere now. No. So you can never tell. You've got to give it much more time.
But I think no matter how good a player is, when you get a new manager that comes in, who has basically a completely different philosophy probably to the last manager, different style of play, there's no point saying, well, this is the best player that's available, we should buy him. Well, why buy him when he doesn't fit into the style that the manager wants to play?
I said this about Yannick. I said this about Yannick, and it's interesting. And I've got this piece that's running at the weekend about Yannick. When Yannick came in, it was quite clear. I mean, you say Brendan and Enzo very different. I don't think they are too much in terms of their philosophy. Both like their teams to press high up the pitch. So that means the back four, back three have to push to condense the space to the midfield, and the midfield then condense the space. So that's the press. So win the ball back. You win the ball back high, you turn it over and you attack. With Enzo, it's more about building from the back, but it's still the same principles. There's a lot of space in behind to defend, and it's just they're very, very similar, but you've got to have the right profile of player to play that. And I can remember asking Brendan when he signed Yannick, I said, is he going to take a bit of time to get used to how you want to play, because he doesn't seem to be comfortable in space, defending space with space behind him, one-on-one. That's not really his game. He's a colossal figure.
Yeah.
And we saw against Man City, anything in the box, he's heading it, blocking it. That seemed to be his strength defensively. And then on the ball, he can build. And he went, no, I disagree with you. I think he's the right profile. And then a couple of weeks later, he never played him again. And then he was saying he wasn't the right profile for us. And I'm not saying I know more than Brendan. I don't, but I just know what I see.
Oh, I think, to be honest with you, after last season, a lot of people probably say you do know more. But
I'm saying, look, I know Yannick isn't comfortable defending 50 metres of space behind him. I know, but we're going to dominate possession in this league, and he's good on the ball. So I'm going to play him because that's his strength. I'm not so worried about his weakness, and we all know his weakness.
Yes.
But we'll stick with it, and he's played every minute of the championship.
I want to talk to you about Yannick, and I don't want to sort of preempt your piece coming out at all, but I take some stick off my fellow presenters on this channel, because I'm actually been standing up for Yannick, because he was a Premier League defender. He was an international defender. And he was pursued by a manager for a few seasons who, like you say, when they brought him in, then he decided not to use him. And I felt, what Leicester fans are like? We seem to sort of take a dislike to a player. It doesn't matter what they do. Ben Chilwell was hated by a certain section of the crowd, even though he was sort of England's first choice left back. But a new manager can come in, and like you say, it's not all about bringing players in. It's players who you can develop that have come through the youth squad, or players that weren't being used properly, but not in the previous manager's plans, but's come in and he fits Enzo's style of play. Now, I've got to be honest with you. I've said on this channel that if he was to sign another contract now, I wouldn't be upset. And I know Cody's going to come back in and probably he'll be first choice, but whether Yannick will want to stay, but I can see him. I can see him being offered another contract.
Well, you know, at the top of the show, I said to you there wasn't too many surprises in the transfer window. The fact that he's still here was the biggest surprise of all for me.
And to him as well, I think.
and to him and to the club as well. So it is a bit of a strange situation. And I did ask Enzo, did he think he had the right profile of player? And he paused for a second or two and then went, I don't know, if I'm honest. But I think he just thinks he can get the best out of Yannick now. Now, there's a lot of players that I think there's 8 permanent players, and obviously there's all the loans that are out of contract at the end of the season. So they're in a similar situation to they were last year. It could be a big turnover of player next season, and Yannick probably is going to be one of them. But if he can get something out of him, which Brendan didn't, if he can get something out of him now in the Championship, then suddenly that £15 million isn't wasted.
Yes.
Obviously, I think Connor would have started as the central figure in that defence if he hadn't got injured in that pre-season game, which looked, well, I was there, he didn't look that serious at the time. He went down, had a bit of treatment, played on until the 50th minute, and then suddenly he's out for 10 weeks. But Yannick stepped in and he's preferred him to Harry Suter. He's even preferred him to James Justin because of that ability on the ball to dictate the pace, to play it fast or play it slow. And so that has been the biggest surprise for me of the transfer window, that Yannick Vestergaard had. He's been revitalised.
And he's got a good pass on him, hasn't he? When he does get the ball up, he can ping a good ball around.
He can, when he's given a bit of time to pick his passes, he can pick his passes.
Yes.
For a big lad, that's a quality to have, really. I mean, he's not just a head on a stick like the old centre halves of the 80s used to be. You stick the biggest lad at centre half and he just head and kick everything. But he can play.
It just reminds me of that Hollywood film, though. Like, white men can't jump. It's a bit like that, isn't it?
Yeah, that's often the way, isn't it? Sometimes the big lads think they're going to be dominant in the air. Yeah, but they can't get off the ground sometimes. But but no, he'll be all right. I mean, Nathan Ake's an example of that because he's not the biggest centre half in the world, but I think Ake's excellent in the air. He's athletic, but Yannick's got other qualities, and as long as you play to his strengths, or use his strengths, and sort of accept the weaknesses, because he's not perfect, and no player is.
No,
then you might get a tune out of him.
Yeah, I can still see a majority of the fans not being convinced by it.
No, they won't be. They won't be. But Leicester are at a different level now, and they've got to get the best out of what they got, and try and get back up, and then rebuild again.
We have, looking at the players that we've brought in, and we'll go obviously concentrate on those because they're the ones who are at the club now. To me, the one signing that's made all the difference, I think, is this guy. When you look at sort of who was being linked, we did a show, didn't we? And we're talking about who's the cardigan man? I've forgotten his name. Scott Parker.
Parker, yeah.
And Steven Gerrard and what have you. Now, I've got to be honest with you. I said at this when we signed him, I said the signing excites me because obviously he just come 6 days before that he'd been lifting the Champions League. But I wasn't convinced because I wanted either the guy from Ipswich or the guy from Blackburn Rovers, Thomason.
Yeah.
Because they've got the experience of the lower leagues. But I've got to say, wow. I mean, he's come in. He's had a big clear out. Backroom staff have all gone. New philosophy. And really, it reminds me very much of when we went down to League One. Have that clear out, reset everything. But this could be, I mean, obviously, if he starts winning things, we'll probably lose him. But, this to me, this could be the signing of the summer.
It's a risk It is a risk because he's an unknown quantity. He's only had one managerial job before at Parma. That didn't last very long. They didn't give him the time that he needs to implement what he wants to do. Although he's Italian, his style is very Spanish. It's very Pep Guardiola-esque in many ways. And I know he gets fatigued at being asked about Pep, but the similarities are there and they're obvious. So the questions are going to be obvious. But yeah, it sort of came out of left field really, because we were expecting Leicester to consolidate and go, okay, we're back in the Championship. We need a British style manager who knows this division. It's going to get us out, get back in the Premier League. But they went completely the other way. They thought, well, Enzo's a good coach. He's just been, working at the treble winners, the Champions League winners, and he's got the potential, but they need to give him time. Now, do Leicester have a lot of time? Because obviously the financial impact of relegation, they need to get back up quickly. But they've got faith in him. And what I think they bought into with him is that, as I said earlier, he is ruthless. He's totally committed. If anybody steps out of line, they're out. He's just focused so much. He's been living down Seagrave until he finds a house. He's living down Seagrave. He spends his evenings watching games, watching old Leicester games and watching all his opponents, games of all the upcoming opponents. Yeah. He's just totally and utterly focused and dedicated. I know he's got a wife and 4 kids, but I don't think he sees them that lot at the moment. He's just very, very focused on what he's doing, and I know that he reads all the media as well. He takes it all in. He's trying to soak up everything that's being said, all the reactions to him. So, yeah, they've certainly got somebody who's willing to seize the opportunity. Now, whether you would have got a manager to come in that would have obviously given their all, but wouldn't have been too disappointed at the payoff when they got sacked, possibly. But I think with Enzo, it's about being a success, forging his career, being a manager, being the main man for the first time properly. And I think that's why he's giving it everything at the moment. And if anybody stands in his way, including me, there will be issues.
You'll know about it. I mean, do you think and we're going to go through the signings, but like you say, we have made some high-profile signings. There's a lot of. I speak to fans of Championship clubs, and they're all sort of saying what the hell are you doing? Wait, you're buying the division sort of thing. I said, yeah, but go back 12 months when we didn't, we signed one player in the end. But how many of those players would have come to the club if Enzo hadn't been the guy at the helm?
Well, certainly, I think you wouldn't have obviously got Callum. You wouldn't have got Cesare Caicedo, a player that I'm really excited about. I really think he's going to be a great signing. He's so busy. He injects energy and enthusiasm, gets in the box, can score a goal. I'm really excited about it. I want to see more of him. Yes. I don't think you would have got those lads to the club. Tom Cannon, perhaps not. No, it's exciting. Harry Winks has come because he wants to play this style of football. Yes, he's come because he wants to be on the ball. He wants to play. He wants to be the focal point of the team. Got cast aside at Tottenham and forgotten in many ways. Yeah. Yes. Now he's the main man. He's the most important figure in the team. He makes everything tick. I mean, looking at all the passing stats, he's right up there with Yannick, interestingly, but he's right up there. So without Enzo in and the style of football that people expect from him, perhaps 3 or 4 of those wouldn't have come.
Yeah. Talking now, we're going to go onto the players. And I can remember being at a barbecue and Saturday night, my brother-in-law is a big Man United fan. He's from Hong Kong. Of course, he's a Man United fan. And, that's there. And I went, my phone suddenly started going bananas. And we hadn't eaten at this point. And I'm like, I'm going to have to go. And then so we have to go and do a show. We signed Connor Cody and Harry Winks. And they get my brother-in-law went, yeah, stop taking the piss. As if you signed them too. And I went, then we have. Seriously, I can't believe it. Now, to me, I thought two fantastic signings. It was a statement by the club, but it appears some people aren't quite as happy as us. And said it's the worst transfer of the summer. Now, this is a Twitter account or a podcast called The Second Tier. They've actually got about is it 107,000? Yeah, 107,000 followers on X as now is. But to come out and say 7.5 million on a 30-year-old who hasn't been good enough for Everton. I don't think he's better than what they've already got. A massive waste of money. And Ryan Dilks has chosen Connor Cody to Leicester as the worst transfer of the summer. You said it beforehand. How the hell can you tell? He's not actually played any minutes in the Championship yet.
But I'm sure a lot of fans are aware. This might come as a surprise to others, and it's certainly probably something they're not aware of, is that despite his injury, and he was wearing a surgical boot for a long time, he's gone to every game, home and away, and he's been a big influence in the dressing room. You know, he is a leader, he is a talker. And I've seen him at with Tranmere. You think, they give him a night off at Tranmere. He can't do anything, can't contribute. He was there. I see him. He comes out after the games and he'll sit pitch side and he'll talk to people. He's a very sociable guy, as we all know from his Wolves days. Really, I mean, he was always willing to interact with people. So, I think he's going to be an excellent signing. I do. I think he's going to be that influence that the club haven't really had since Wes Morgan. And now Wes, was a quiet leader. He wasn't like a shouter and a baller like a Casper. No. But he was an influence around the place. And I think Connor will be that influence as well. And we've talked about Yannick, and it'll be interesting when Connor's back fit, which we expect by the end of this month. He should be back training after the international break, but then obviously you've got to give him a bit of time to get back to fitness before he can play. But I think he will play, and he will be that central figure in that defence, I think. So I think you'll see a lot of Connor Cody, and I think he'll turn out to be a bargain.
I honestly do as well, and I think we remember. All right, we might not be going any further now in the Carabao Cup, but it's 46 games, midweek weekend, pick up a niggle here, get a booking over the limit and missing games, and we are probably going to say, because I don't think he's a player that necessarily, he wears his heart on his sleeve and he leaves his boot in occasionally. And, we could be calling upon Yannick, quite a few times as the first choice standing. But I think, it wasn't so long ago. He was playing for England, and Everton. All right, Sean Dyche. Everton has decided to stick with these ex-Burnley players in their defence. It's not particularly doing them very well at the moment, is it? Let's be honest.
No, sorry, I'm just adjusting my light.
Right.
I got sent to the England press conference last week, and Connor was mentioned without prompting by Gareth Southgate, because he was talking about why Harry Maguire was named in the squad and he hadn't played a minute for Man United this season. And he listed the players that were missing, and he mentioned Connor. So he's still in his thoughts. Yeah. But the caveat was, he said, Connor's injured at the moment, but he's also dropped down to the Championship. Like, that should be negative against him.
Yes, I heard that.
Yeah, so I don't know. He must still be in his thoughts.
Southgate, when he got the job, that said, I don't care where players are playing as long as they're playing.
Yeah. But let's judge Connor when he's back fit and playing. But I tell you, when he's on the pitch, you'll hear him, because a lot of the pre-season games were behind closed doors down at Seagrave, and I was lucky enough to be invited to go and watch those. And his was the voice that you constantly heard during the game. Yeah. So he will be very important to Enzo's style of play, because he will be organising people around him. People can say he's the worst signing. Potentially. Yeah, potentially. He could be the captain. Ricardo's done very well with the armband. He's been there for quite a few years. And a bit like Wes, he's not the vocal leader, but he leads by example. And obviously he's playing this role this inverted fullback role at the moment, which some people might argue doesn't bring out the best in him, because we've seen when he was flying before his injuries, he was a great attacking fullback, got in the box, scored goals, got forward. He won't get forward as much in this role. He basically moving from right back to being a holding midfielder. But he's a lovely guy, Ricardo. He's just so down to earth and a measured individual. That's why I think he's got the armband at the moment. But Connor would certainly be a candidate for that.
Yeah. Now, I did jokingly say probably the signing of the summer was Enzo, but to me, this guy that who's going to be coming up next. In fact, they might as well just bring him up. For me, we did a deadline day transfer special, and there was sort of 5 or 6 of the presenters coming on all at different times, and I asked each and every one, including myself, who is your signing of the season so far. Now, unfortunately, Cody, we hadn't really seen enough of him to include him in, but every single one of us went for Harry Winks. I'm trying to do comment. No, I'm no John Motson. I've got to be honest with you, sir. But I'm trying to do a commentary on the watch along, and I'm saying and Harry Winks has had the ball in the left back position, and he clears it up. And then 5 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes later, well, hang on, who's on the right midfield now? Oh, it's Harry Winks again. He's like Shinji Okazaki. After 60 minutes, the guy must be absolutely knackered, but he's everywhere. Well, I put on the thing there, position defensive midfielder, stroke everywhere, because he is.
Yeah. He is relishing this challenge. I mean, I spoke to him in pre-season, and he's just loving the responsibility he's been given. He wants to be the focal point. He wants to be the main cog in the machine, because after a bright start at Tottenham, I did a piece about that performance at Real Madrid at the Bernabeu that Tottenham fans still talk about as like a fabled performance. So we went back and looked at it and thought, well, was it really that good? Yeah. And you can basically on Wisecout, you can watch every touch he made in the game. And it wasn't as spectacular as many people, but it was very, very effective. And that was when I thought, this he's a proper footballer. And since watching him play for Leicester, he's got to be up there as the best midfielder in the division. He has to be. He never gives the ball away. He's just, occasionally he has, but very, very rarely. I think his possession stats and completion rate on passes was up something like 95%. He's a very effective footballer who's going to be intrinsic to how Enzo wants to play. So, yeah, I wouldn't disagree with the fact that people are saying he's the signing of the summer so far. But time will tell, as I said, with all of them. But so far, he's made a great start.
He has. Third signing, if I've got these in the right order, which I think I have, is... Oops, I've jumped on too many on that screen. Well, I say he's a goalkeeper. I'm wondering whether he's a defensive midfielder sometimes, because I've seen... You touched on it. I remember watching one programme, going like, who's that? Like you say, everybody was in the opposition half, but one player was just outside the centre circle in our own half. Bloody hell, that's mads. What's he doing? I mean, if they'd had the thought to kick it up an eye and do a Beckham, but that's what Enzo wants from his goalkeeper.
Enzo said he was the main target this summer. He was the player he wanted more than any to come in. He's identified why. It's because he wants, when they've got possession, he wants all 11 players to be like outfield players. And it was remarkable watching some of the Bromby stuff that he was stood next to the 2 centre halves as they were knocking the ball around on the halfway line. He was there to be the central figure in that build-up. Yeah. It's going to come with risks. We saw it in the Liverpool game in pre-season. I think it was the Liverpool game where the ball was turned over and you had to head clear from outside the area because he was scrambling to get back. Somebody tried to lob him. There are inherent risks, but as I said earlier about the Annex situation, Enzo's quite prepared to take those risks because he thinks dominating possession and having the ball is going to be more fruitful going forwards than being a bit cautious. So It's a brave approach. But this guy, he fancied. I mean, I thought Casper fancied himself as an outfield player, but this guy is an outfield player most of the time.
Yeah.
But he can make saves as well. We've seen he's come to their rescue a few times already.
Yeah.
He can make saves.
It is risky, the way that he plays. It's almost like Ozzy Ardiles when he was at Spurs. Well, we'll concede 2, but we'll score 3 up at the other end. You know, I can see him going up at the end of the match when we need a goal and nodding one in. But when last season we were playing out because Brendan liked these goalkeepers to play out from the back, and it was another case of when you were watching it. Whether it was Everson or Ward, they'd kick the ball to the defender, and then the defender would seem to wait there for the ball to get to them. Where now, the players seem to have read them, they must have been told that when that happens, you come and you meet the ball.
Yeah.
Rather than wait and let an opposition player nip in and get it.
A bit different to Casper used to get the ball and he used to play those diagonals out to the wide positions, to the fullbacks or to Harvey. I mean, Harvey was a big target for him. Mads is a bit different. Mads will play the pass through the middle. You know, when Ricardo steps in or Harry steps in, you know, he'll come in the central position and he'll have Yannick and Wout go either side of him. But he won't be afraid to play that pass into the central areas. It's not just give it to the keeper and the keeper just sling it out wide and then we compete for it there. It's a different philosophy. So, you know, his ability on the ball is intrinsic to Enzo's philosophy. So let's see how it works out. But there will be some hairy moments. I'm absolutely sure there'll be some hairy moments. It's exciting, isn't it? It's edge of the seat stuff.
It is.
Take some risks.
Yeah, it's not. We don't want boring football, do we? We want risky football. Now, but do forgive me with this pronunciation. But when Mads was brought in, I thought he's going to be number 1. Otherwise, why are we buying another goalkeeper? And I thought, well, Smithies is he's there. He's like the Jakovic of the team at the moment. He's there, and he'll come in if need be or for some emergency. But obviously, he's injured anyway. And I could see Stolchak going out on loan, and then either Everson or Ward being sold. I had no way did I ever think that Stolchak would be, and I forgive my pronunciation, would be number 2. He's deserved it. He's not done anything wrong when he's come in, but we could have a 5-a-side football team of just goalkeepers. I mean, Neil, and hello to Neil from Beyond the 90. I think you know the channel. It's a great Leicester channel. He said, how will he manage the 5 goalkeeper situation?
Well, they've submitted the squad. There's one player that's going to miss out on being registered. So they've got 26, and they've obviously got 5 goalkeepers. So I would expect it to be a goalkeeper. Yeah. Daniel Iverson was a bankable asset, but he hasn't moved on. But I can see him being the 3rd choice. Danny Ward and Alex Smithies. Then I think Smithies will be the one that misses out. Because he's injured. Because he's injured at the moment, so they will carry four goalkeepers in their squad. So there should never be a need for turning to James Justin or Jamie Vardy and saying, "Can you put the shirt on? The keeper's gone off injured." We shouldn't have that scenario at all in the future. So,
but I did say the other day. I mean, he's been having like 2 goalkeepers on the bench, and I couldn't get why we had 2 goalkeepers on the bench. I mean, has any team ever used 3 goalkeepers in a match? Oh, yes, Leicester did against Shrewsbury. But, I mean, joking aside, I mean, what was that all about as well?
Yeah, I know. It was very surprising, and it certainly sent a message to a lot of those lads that have not featured at all so far this season and during the transfer window that, he was open to letting them go. Harry Souters of this world. So, it's going to be interesting how he integrates them again back into the squad, because he might have to call upon them. I mean, we've talked a lot about the central defenders. Connor's been out injured. So obviously he's gone with Yannick in that central position. And in the League Cup games, he's played JJ in there. I mean, my understanding is they're trying to nurse JJ back. They don't want to rush him too much because of the physical issues he's had previously. But I think he is the best defender at the club. One-on-one.
Well, he can
best
play anywhere,
defender,
can't he? Let's be honest.
He can play right, left, centre half, centre midfield if you want him. He could play, proper player.
He's a utility player that Phil never wanted to be, isn't he, really? But, I mean, John's made that point there.
Yeah.
We'll mention it because you brought it up, but will Daka and Sutar be integrated back into the squad or be left in limbo?
Well, they'll have to be because they're being paid. The window's shut now. They can't go anywhere.
No.
Get them back in, get them focused, and point out to them that if they want to move in the next window, the only way to do that is to attract attention with their performances on the pitch. Now, I personally think Harry Suter, Harry wants to stay. He wants to fight for his place, is my understanding. He's not prepared to get his opportunity at a club like Leicester and then just walk away after 6 months. I think he would like an opportunity. Patson, we all thought Patson was going. Yeah. The Bournemouth situation where they couldn't move somebody on to make space for him was the reason that collapsed. So he's back now, having thought he was on his way, and he's back in. So they've got to get the best out of him now. I mean, there was a lot of speculation around Kelechi on the final few days of the window, and Kelechi is now so important to the way Enzo plays. I would have been surprised if they let him go, because he likes basically like a false nine. And the penetration comes from the two number 8s, whether that's KDH or Casada. They need that penetration from there. So, but Patson still's got something to offer at this level. I think he really can do it, but it's got to be a mental thing now. It's going to be difficult for Enzo to get them back on because, as I said, he's ruthless. He's not like. He's basically told them they know where they stand, which every player must welcome.
Yeah,
the fact that they know where they stand in the situation. Yeah. But now he's got to get a tune out of them. So this is management. He's learning because he's a new manager. He's learning about the media. He's learning about how the club works. He's learning about players, and he should know players from his coaching. But when you're managing them and you're not the number 2 that puts an arm around them, has a laugh and a joke with them. You're the guy that's making the decisions. It's a different kettle of fish. So this is a learning curve for him too. But getting Patson and Harry back in will be a big thing for him because he's going to need the championship's relentless. I mean, I was looking at the fixtures the other day when we come back from the international break. Away at Southampton and away at Norwich. In the space of 5 days, that's a fair bit of travelling.
But that's the thing, isn't it? It is 46 games just for the league with any cup games on top of that, and they've still got international going. There's international players there, so they're going to be away playing. It's going to be a long, hard season, and we're going to need that everybody in that squad to play their part. You are. I mean, Scott's just asked here. He did ask. I've lost it now. Don't bear with me, caller. Do you see Enzo rotating the squad so the likes of Daka Chowdhury, Cannon, etc. may get regular game time? He's got to, hasn't he?
Yeah, I can, but I think so far we've seen that he's been pretty consistent in his selections. That back 3-4 has not changed much so far. Obviously, Hermansen is the goalkeeper. Harry Winks will sit in front. It's in the forward areas that you will probably see the rotation. I can see Casada coming in a bit more ahead of Wilf as a number 8. KDH might have to have a little breather as well. Ian Atcho seems to be the main number 9, but Jamie's been dropping in and out. He's got options now in the wide areas with the business they did at the end of the transfer window, which, when Harvey went, we thought, well, where's the width coming? And they got Mavididi in and then Abdul and now Eunice as well. Casey's been the big bonus for him so far this season. So, he's got options. And that's healthy. That's really healthy for a long, long season.
Yeah, totally. You talked about the winger there. First one coming in, Steffi. Scored a goal. Obviously gets the fans on his side. I'm a bit with some of these players, and we'll come on to, obviously, the different ones we go through, that they're coming in with these great reputations, and I think when you call anybody a wonder kid, you kind of building the poor guy up for a fall. But he was called the Arsenal Wonder Kid. But I've been really impressed with him. The foot over thing, I don't know what you call it, that the players do. He's got some tricks in his arsenal, hasn't he? No pun intended there, by the way.
Yeah. He seems a direct type of wide player. He likes to get wide, then cut inside, which Enzo likes. He can fashion a shot for himself. Very similar to the other players as well that he's brought in. They can offer the width, but as soon as they get the opportunity, they will come inside and try and be direct. So, and this is the part of the game plan that I've noticed, that the number 9 won't be the main focus. No. It's the 2 8s and the 2 wide players that are going to be offering a lot more goal threat in this game plan. So that's why I think a Kelechi Iheanacho is probably, rather than a Jamie Vardy or a Patson Daka, is probably what he's thinking at this moment. Not to say they won't play their role, and I think they will have a role to play. But I think he likes the fact that these guys, they've got to stay wide. They've got to be disciplined to give that switch ball from Callum Doyle that I mentioned earlier. But when they do get the ball, they'll be looking to come inside and be a threat.
I mean, I was surprised. We will come on to Cannon at the end because obviously it was the last signing. But we've seen the end of the tour up front. We're ever going to see that come back. I don't think it's important under Enzo because he sees his wide players as part of the strike force, doesn't he?
Yeah, and he doesn't play with he doesn't play with a 10 either.
No.
So Maddison was the 10 before, but he doesn't play with a 10. He plays with 2 wide players and 2 8s, and the 2 8s are encouraged to get into the box and break lines. So they've got to be runners as well. They've got to be athletic. Yes. He likes Dennis Pratt. Obviously, Dennis has got an injury.
Yeah.
But as I said, I can see the 2 being at the moment KDH, and I think eventually Casada will be the other number 8. Wilf has done very well, but it's a change for him. This role is a massive change for him. I have not seen him play this role before. Watching him pre-season, we were watching him go box to box, and we thought, is he trying to turn Wilfred Ndidi into Yaya Toure here? Or this is going to be interesting.
It was working, wasn't it? That was the thing.
Well, he scored some goals. Yeah, he scored some goals.
We sat there at the start of the season, and I said, like, who the hell is this Ndidi that we've signed? I said, because I certainly haven't seen this Ndidi, not for a couple of seasons, in fairness. My God. And I think, along with the majority of Leicester fans, I was pleased that he didn't leave, to be honest with you, because I think, again, but it's going to be interesting to see who gets the game time as we go through. Callum Doyle, and you mentioned him earlier, again, came with a big reputation after what he did at Coventry last season. Has he lived up to that so far for you? It's early days, I know.
Oh, yeah, he's played regularly. He's looked effective. He's got that wand of a left foot. He can ping that crossfield ball, as we saw for McAteer at Rotherham. He can be an effective player, and I think he's an important part of the game plan for Enzo.
Yes. I can understand why we've got so many lone players.
You've got to use it in the Championship. You've got to use it.
Did in League One, didn't he?
Yeah.
As well?
You've got to use the loan market because you've got FFP concerns, and and I think one of the big draws about Enzo is that that clubs like Man City are willing to let their players develop at a club like Leicester because they've got fantastic facilities. It's a big club in the Championship, and you've got a progressive manager who plays a style of football that is suited to the Premier League. So it's a good grounding for them. They are developing these players.
I do know, obviously, a couple of the wingers that we're going to come on to have actually loans with options to buy. But
depending on promotion.
Yes, yeah. But the likes of Callum Doyle, for example, and Casada, we'll come on to in a second. I mean, if they have good seasons, they're going to go, and let's say we get promoted, they're going to sit down. If we go and say, look, we'd like you to stay, it's not going to be as simply for them, I'm going to go back because it's Man City or Chelsea, because let's be honest with you, they may not get the chance. They don't necessarily like sort of the youth players coming through at these teams, do they?
No, I mean that's the thing. So it's important for their development. If they come to a place like Leicester and they do well, and they go back and they see a change. I mean, Leicester have used the loan market in the opposite way as well.
Yes.
KDH going to Blackpool, and then certainly Luton, Harvey Barnes with these 3 loans.
Yeah.
They go away boys and come back men. They understand what it is to play serious senior football. And it's all part of their development. And the key, and that's why clubs employ loan managers now, is picking the right environments for them. I mean, Ben Nelson is another one. I mean, Ben's been around the squad all pre-season and the start of the season. He's a defender they've got high hopes for. He's a ball-playing centre-back. Perfect for Enzo. But he didn't have a very good loan start of last season when he went to I think it was Rochdale. It was then when they recalled him and he went to Doncaster, and he played a lot more football, that he started to understand, it matters to win at that level. It's win bonuses. It's money for these players, and their families. So, it's a bit different to playing under 23s development football.
Yes. This next player, you've said how much you like him. The little Italian. He nearly went to Italy, didn't he? But again, I think this was the Enzo effect that we got him here at Leicester. What I loved about him in his first game, he came on. Vardy, I think it would have been a penalty, but he wasn't hanging about and waiting. He saw that ball there and he thought, "Oh, I'm having that," and wallop in the net.
Well, dream start that is. I mean, don't expect that every week, but no, I like this kid. I've seen enough of him now to think that I think he's going to have a big contribution this season. As I said, he's very athletic, energetic. He adds tempo when he's in the team. We've seen Leicester playing a little bit slowly, as I said, the patient build up, and suddenly he comes on. And it just increases, takes it up another notch. So I think he's got a big role to play. And I can see him playing most of the games this season. I think he's just being fed in at the moment by Enzo and he's learning. But I think when the season's truly up and running, you'll see a lot more of this lad.
Yes. Yeah, I think he's... and he gets the crowd going, doesn't he? As soon as he comes on. And that's sometimes that can be almost, when you bring a player on, the fact that gives that crowd the buzz that can help the team totally.
And he complements KDH very well for me because they're both very similar in that. They're very energetic and very enthusiastic. Yes. And I just felt in the start of the season that Kieran, because he's homegrown and he's come through and he's a bit of a fan's favourite, he's taken a lot more responsibility on his shoulders, probably more than he's ready for at the moment. Yeah. So having somebody as the opposite number 8, playing with him and taking some of that burden off him would be great for KDH as well.
Yeah. Yunus here, right winger, we touched on him earlier. He's a winner, all right, in the Turkish league, but I've liked what I've seen so far.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was quite good when he came on at Tranmere. For that second half. Then he got the start against Hull. He didn't offer too much in that game. Let's give the lad time. I've looked at a lot of his footage from before, and he had a very good loan spell in Turkey and a club that I can't remember the name of off the top of my head, from Galatasaray. Had a great time. His numbers were very high for goals and assists. Again, he's a player that loves to he's left-footed off the right, loves to come inside and have a shot. He doesn't go on the outside very much. Sometimes perhaps he can be a little bit more aware of people in better positions than him, but he's a young player and that's all part of the learning process. So he needs time.
And I must admit, I say the guy that came in, the Turkish fan that came into the chat, or the Galatasaray fan from Turkey, he didn't want to let him go. They were disappointed that he'd gone. And I think that says a lot if the fans don't want to see a player go.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine why they like him, because they don't have many homegrown players at Galatasaray. They import so many of their players. I think he was one or two. I think they've only been left with one homegrown player. now because he's come to Leicester. So it's very much about exports to Turkish football, and that's a shame really because their league could be quite good. I mean, I've been over Turkey and the enthusiasm they have for their game.
I was gonna say, I would imagine the atmosphere is amazing.
If you're a Fenerbahce fan or a Galatasaray fan, you're like, oh, it's your life. So that'd be interesting.
But if one right winger is not enough, let's get a second one in.
You always need another option, don't you?
You do, don't. Although having said that, we have got Mavididi and Marcello, who haven't been doing so bad. I mean, Marcel, I've got to be honest with you, I saw him pre-season and he looks the business. Gets dropped.
It's early days for him as well.
On and he gets two, but
yeah.
These guys are going to have to fight to get that position. But he, again, got the crowd going against Hull when he came on and hit the post.
Very direct, wasn't he? Very lively. Yeah, he hit the post. It was a great run. What a start that would have been for him if he'd managed to score that. But, yeah, an exciting prospect, I would say. Yes. It's going to be interesting to watch him and Eunice. My inkling from just seeing that, I mean, it's very, very early, as I saw. We only saw about half an hour of him. My inkling is this kid could be the one that really excites people.
Have we got an option to buy with what I've got? It was a season-long loan. Do we have an option to buy with him?
Yes, I believe so. But again, it's all dependent on the outcome of this season, and promotion is key. If these lads perform and they want to play in the Premier League and they get Leicester up, there's a great opportunity for them.
Now, this surprised me. It's the last one of the incomings, and I did the deadline day special, thinking probably it will be a very, very quiet one because we've done so much with this early on. And of course, we signed this guy, but by the time he actually was announced, I was tucked up in bed because I've got to be up at 6 o'clock the next morning. But Mr. Cannon, I mean, it was a surprise. I know Everton fans weren't happy, but I didn't sign anybody, so they just didn't want to let anybody go. Again, was he Preston, I think, last season on loan?
Did very well there.
Yeah, it was
interested. I've spoken to a few people about him and how they would compare him with Leicester players of old. Very much like Vardy in the fact he plays on the shoulder of the last defender, but also a bit like David Nugent. There's a lot of similarities with Nuge, in the way he runs, his movement. He can drop deep and he can link the play like Enzo wants. It's going to be interesting watching his development this season. Obviously, they to pay the money they've paid for him, to take the chance on him. They obviously believe in him. I mean, this isn't a loan. This is a permanent deal. They think this lad can contribute in the coming years. So you might not see a lot of him initially, but the feeling I get is that this is one for the future. They think can really benefit for them, and as I said, a Vardy / Nuge type centre forward.
This is, I think, this window has been. I mean, it's really been, I'd say, the first proper window that Martin Glover and his team have been able to sort of do their bit, if you like. So it'd be interesting to see how these signings go on. But what does this say for Patson Daka?
I don't really know how much we're going to see of Patson, to be honest. But, as I said, he might have a role to play. Injuries happen, suspensions happen. There's a lot of games. If you get a run in the cup, then, you might need to rest players at certain stages. It's a 25-man squad for a reason. Everybody's got to contribute. So you've got to get them all in and get them ready. And it's professionalism to make sure that you are ready if called upon. So it's up to Patson. If he wants a big move at the end of it, then he needs to knuckle down now. Yeah.
Two questions to end on. Kelechi and Brad, who's one of my co-hosts, that's his man love. That's his secret man love, is Kelechi Iheanacho. So he would kill me if I didn't ask this. He's got a year left. He's important. He's now, to my mind, he's, like you say, number one in the role that he's in. But in that, there's going to be one forward on his name. It's going to be the first one on the team sheet. Will he, do you think, sign a new contract? Is there any rumours or rumblings about that?
Well, we've asked a few times about because there's quite a few lads that are out of contract. As I said, I think there's 8 lads that are already at the club, and then obviously you've got all the loans as well that could potentially go. So there could be a big turnover again next summer if the outcome isn't positive this season. I think a lot depends on that, whether they can get promotion or look like they're going to get close to promotion. I understand Kelechi. He might have been up for a move if something really positive happened, but I don't think he's unhappy at Leicester. I mean, he's got his big mate Wolf still there. They share a box, and all their family come over. You know, they've had some good times at the club. I don't think they're in a hurry to move out of the club. And he's that sort of likable character. He is quite bubbly. Yeah, he's very. I mean, he's very popular with his teammates. He's Kelechi, very popular with his teammates, and I think he's got a really prominent role. Probably the most prominent role he's had since he's come to the club this season. I mean, he's played bit parts. He's been a second striker. I mean, his most productive period was as second striker to Jamie in the FA Cup run and the end of that season. And I think he's a talent. And I don't think potentially there could be a better striker in the Championship.
No, not at all. Interesting to see, and I'll make this the last question. Appreciate you giving me time up to do this as always, Rob.
No problem.
Somebody said to me, what were my expectations at the season? And I had 2, and my head said one and my heart said the other. My heart says that we'll go up as either first or second. I know I'm not particularly bothered as long as we go straight back up. But I didn't want to be disrespectful because it is a difficult division. To my mind, it's probably the 6th or 7th best division in Europe after the so-called Big Six. I don't know if we weren't to go up this season. So let's say, for example, we either missed out in the playoffs or we finished 7th or 8th. I don't know if that's. I mean, financially, that's obviously not going to be good, but it would give us another season. I'd sooner have that extra season in the Championship and go up stronger than go up this season and not be ready. If that makes sense.
I think they need to get up this season, personally. And it's a perfect season for Enzo to get his blueprint in, have a season working on it here, because it's unforgiving in the Premier League. You get punished for every mistake, as we saw last season. Yeah, exactly. So there's a massive gulf, a huge gulf, and even this squad now, and I've called it the best in the Championship, would need a lot of work in the Premier League. So a lot of money would need to be spent again. I still have a lot of faith in the ownership of this football club and the way it's run. I honestly do. I know everything went wrong last season, and perhaps a few people were asleep at the wheel as things developed. And I was one of those that did warn about it.
Yeah, they've made up for it almost this season, haven't they? Because they looked at it and went, God, yes, we got all this wrong, but they've gone out and backed the manager.
Yeah, exactly. You can't complain, can you? They haven't exactly shut down the club and said, right, okay, we're going to have to weather this. No, they've gone, right, okay, we've gone down. We're going to get back up. We're going to make 25 transactions, 9 players in. We're going to have a go at this. We're going to take a risk on a progressive manager who's got a philosophy that might be different to what we've had before, but hey, we're going to back him. So I think there is ambition there. And I think I hope the fans really get behind them this season, because it could potentially be one of the most. Every season I've been covering them for 14 seasons. Yeah. Every season has been memorable. There's something that always happened. There's always been competing or fighting for something or to avoid something. And this season, I hope, won't be any different. And I hope they can challenge for those automatic promotion spots, because that is the target. I know people might play it down, but it has to be, because if they don't get up, the financial implications next season will hinder them even more, and the gulf when they do get back up will be even greater. So they need to get up.
The next game is Southampton away on Sky on a Friday night. I mean,
the joys of the Championship, Friday night football, eh?
Yeah, but then what happened once before when we played Southampton on a Friday night?
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah,
Let's hope
that,
for a
that was
repeat of
actually
that.
that was my last away game. Was that
Really?
game? Haven't had a go, and the tickets for my next away game are Southampton away on on next Friday night. So fingers crossed that
Yeah.
I'm the lucky mascot.
But I'm looking at those fixtures there, and I'm going to have to renegotiate the mileage on my car. That's for sure, because there's a lot of away trips this season.
Wait until you get Plymouth.
Yeah,
Plymouth 1 week, Sunderland the next.
Cardiff, Swansea, Norwich, Ipswich. Middlesbrough, Sunderland, Plymouth, Southampton.
All
welcome corners of the country.
Yeah, as my Burnley mate said, welcome to proper football. I haven't missed VAR at all. Rob, thank you so much for giving up the time and coming on. Please do get over, if you haven't subscribed to Athletic, I think the offer is on £1 a month for 12 months.
Yeah,
I saw it come up before. Yeah, it is.
Absolute bargain.
Better value than Twitter, I'll tell you that much.
I pay £26 a month for the Time subscription, and you can get for £12 the Athletic a year.
Don't start me on that. I used to work in the newspaper industry for 25 years, and when it was slowly moving over to the internet more than papers, like what? And I worked in the industry, but I'm saying why do I have to pay for a service that is advert heavy? And you're still asking me for more money. Oh, don't. You'll get me on my soapbox.
Yeah, there's not many adverts on the Athletic, but lots of content.
No, that's what it is all about. And to me, I could say it's the best bound. I'd pay more, but don't tell them that. Don't tell them that. Rob, thank you so very much for giving your time up. Really do appreciate it, mate. And hopefully we'll speak soon. Take care.
Absolutely. Ta-ra.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thanks to Rob there for doing that. Really do appreciate it. Giving his time up and coming on. And whoever that podcast were, they don't know what they're talking about. Rob does. Do £1 a month. It's best value out there, and it really does. The content, honestly, I can't say how good the stories are. I absolutely always read it. Got some news for you. Monday night. Now, normally on a Monday at 7:00, we do the debate show. It's not going to happen this Monday. It will probably happen on Tuesday, because on Monday I've got Muzzy Is-It coming on. So I'll be chatting with Muzzy and doing looking through his life and times at Leicester. And I'm sure that overhead kick against Grimsby will just get a mention. So that's Monday night at 7:30. Muzzy Is-It in conversation with. I am looking forward to that. Thanks very much. If you're going to watch the England game, enjoy it. I don't know if I'm doing a watch along or not. It's England. Who knows? But hey, look, we lost the Hull, but it's still the best opening season we've ever had. So thank you very much. This has been LTID TV. I've been Chris. This is Arnie. Good night.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.